Africa emerged as a key player in the global fight against climate change this year. CGTN's Najma Abdirizak closely followed major climate policy events this year and now reports on the strides made across the continent.
Arguably, Africa firmly stands at the forefront of the global climate action. Coming from the COP27 into the new year, the continent had already decided that in 2023 it was going to be a force to be reckoned with in the battle against climate change. And it has not certainly fallen short over the past 12 months in making headways. From what we saw, focus mostly was on how the continent was going to be making use of its abundant renewables, with key initiatives gaining ground. We're talking about hydropower plants, solar, wind energy projects set up across various African countries to show just how much the continent was committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and transitioning to a cleaner future. Credit is being given to its leaders, not just governments, businesses, climate activists, but also citizens who, for the better part of 2023, hopped from one climate forum to the other to make sure that the African voice, often overlooked in global discussions, is heard this time around. From one high-level summit to another, they have continued to strongly advocate for equal play, which in the past has been dominated by richer Western nations. Their message to the global north: deliver on the promise to provide funding, particularly the $100 billion annually they pledged to provide. Their argument: Africa cannot be nature-rich and cash-poor. They particularly made that voice clear at the inaugural Africa Climate Summit held right here in Nairobi, a historic moment for the continent, bringing forward a unified voice for the first time ahead of the United Nations Climate Change Conference. And we certainly saw that togetherness earlier this month in Dubai at the COP28 summit, when African leaders held Western economies to account, demanding stronger commitments. They joined representatives at the summit where, after 2 weeks of intense negotiations, more than 190 countries agreed to reduce global consumption of fossil fuels. But for Africa, there's discord that a complete transition away from fossil fuels will mean a direct nail in the coffin.
Climate change remains an increasing threat to Africa. So it's having a growing impact on the African continent, hitting the most vulnerable, hardest, contributing to food insecurity, population displacement, and increased stress on water resources. So the latest prediction for the period covering 2020 to 2024 shows that there's going to be a continued warming and decreasing rainfall in the northern part of Africa, as well as the southern part, while eastern and central Africa are going to experience increased rainfall. That could explain the current El Nino phenomenon we are seeing in the Horn of Africa.
Whether or not and how the continent is going to be enforcing that particular deal will certainly be on the watch come 2024. Remember, despite Africa accounting for less than 5% of global emissions, it is being disproportionately impacted by the negative effects of climate change, from extreme flooding to droughts. And for African countries, fighting the effects of climate change is urgent, a matter of survival. And it's why their voice is only anticipated to get even louder next year. Najma Abdirizak, CGTN, Nairobi.